Hi, everybody. I'm Perry. Today, Eddie Stone, founder and CEO of Touchstone Essential, is here. Hello, Eddie.
Hi, Perry. Hello to everybody that's listening to us today.
Uh-huh. How are you, Eddie?
We're doing fantastic. I'm in North Carolina. And so,
Uh-huh.
for those that have paid attention to the news, we have a storm coming our way. So, we've got the storm on our mind and we're making some preparations, but we're doing good here. And it's interesting how nice the weather can be just
Mhm.
immediately before a big storm. So it's an interesting sort of feeling you get when you look outside. But we're going to make all the preparations necessary to make sure everybody's safe and be optimistic that Hurricane Flo will have only a minimal amount of impact.
I wish everybody's safe too over there, okay?
Thank you, Perry.
Uh-huh. Eddie, can I start from the question? Okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, from Silicro. Zeolite is a chemical made by Dow. I know someone who works with it hands-on to treat river water. It pulls metals. Yes, but it takes calcium and minerals too. Then the leftover zeolite, I'm wondering how that comes out of your system.
Okay, so let's take sort of two sides to this. So first, there are man-made zeolites. Typically, we refer to them as synthetic zeolites, and I don't know whether Dow Chemical produces them or not, but I know there are companies that produce synthetic zeolites, and they are used. I don't know about cleaning up rivers. That may be the case, but I know that they're used for air filtration and water filtration and even with some nuclear accidents around the globe. So Fukushima in Japan, as well as Chernobyl in Russia, and then 3 Mile Island, long time ago here in the United States, zeolite can be used on those environments. Now, what I don't know is whether they're using a synthetic zeolite or a natural zeolite, but that is true. But there is a bit of a misnomer about its impact on calcium, magnesium, and potassium. Those are positively charged particles, and of course the zeolite has a negative charge, so they are naturally attracted to one another. However, heavy metals like cadmium, lead, mercury, even volatile organics that you find in the environment from cleaners or for just industrial production, they are actually preferred. They have a higher charge and a size that's actually preferred by the zeolite's natural honeycomb type shape. And so there's no research out there to suggest in human beings and or animals that while using zeolites, there is an abnormal drop in their potassium, calcium, and magnesium levels. And in our case, for example, when we are cleaning our zeolite, so our zeolite is mined naturally out of New Mexico. That's the most prominent place that we get our zeolite because it's a good, clean source. And then, of course, we do clean it ourselves, and so it's coming from the ground. It's a natural mineral. When we clean it, part of that process when we're cleaning is we're teasing out during this about 2-week period of time. We're teasing out the impurities and particles and things that we want to get out of this zeolite. And what we put back in its place are calcium, magnesium, and potassium. So we're actually flooding those honeycomb structures inside the zeolite with calcium, magnesium, and potassium, because then when it goes in the body, it has such a loose desire to hold on to those that on exchange, it'll actually trade out those for the heavy metals that we've been talking about. So there's just no research to suggest that it will reduce that. And it's not enough that we put in it that it would be what you'd call impactful from a nutrition standpoint. So it's really a net neutral from the research I've seen. This includes research from Eastern Europe, Japan, United States, Central South America. So there's quite a bit of research on that particular subject. In terms of staying in the body, it is not sticky. I think I saw on one of your questions on YouTube that someone said, well, it's sticky and it stays in the body. That's just not true. It isn't something that the body will hold on to. And so assuming a person has normal renal function, you would dispense of it about a 4 to 6 hour period of time. And even if you don't have normal renal function, it's then just going to go through the bowel instead of through urine. And so it's just not something that will maintain or stay in the body. Perry, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Okay, so thank you. Next question from Peter Gore. He is in Thailand. Okay, he asks, what if bentonite clay can use bentonite to replace the zeolite or not?
Well, there are a lot of positive benefits from bentonite. I know that I've seen a lot of topical applications, so facial mask and things of this kind. And it's almost like one of the materials we discussed last week, that it can help to sweep at sort of like a broom inside the digestive system, but it does not have the same structure as a zeolite. So zeolites are a hardened mineral, and that's really an attractive feature. And inside of their honeycomb shapes, those catacombs inside the zeolite, it maintains that negative charge. And that's not true of the clay substances. And so their ability to attract and hold on to those heavy metals and volatile organics is not the same. So the bentonite or any of the other clays, they're not going to perform the same in the body. So it isn't a trade-off. Plus, the process for trying to clean a bentonite would essentially just destroy what could be some of the positive benefits that you would sort of think of it in terms of like using it on the face to help pull some impurities out of the face. But it's more like it soaks it up, then attracts it and holds on to it to carry it out of the body. So it's not quite the same. But by no means am I saying it's a bad idea, but it does not function the same as zeolite.
Okay, Eddie, this one, I like it because I'm one of those who use zeolite too. She said from Kathy Precker, I have lost 10 pounds plus on zeolite. I have more energy and my fibromyalgia continues to get better. I have been on zeolite for about 4 months. I was holistic nutrition counselor and could not lose weight due to autoimmune and Epstein-Barr. I have cleared those from my system, but zeolite is the only thing to help me lose weight. And I didn't change my eating. How does it help? Again, please, Eddie, about losing weight with zeolite.
Sure. And so the zeolite is a part of it. So how can I say this so that it is clear for everybody? So essentially what the zeolite does is it helps the body perform in its more natural way. It helps the body find homeostasis by helping it get rid of heavy metals and environmental pollutants. And those heavy metals and environmental pollutants can get in the way of basic cell function. So whether that's the production of ATP, which is where your energy comes from at a cellular level, or how your body pulls glucose out of the bloodstream into the cell. We normally think of that being assisted by insulin, which is produced by your pancreas. But all of these things will lose their effectiveness if you've got heavy metals and environmental pollutants really clogging up the system, right? It's almost like if you have an automobile and the filtration system is clogged or blocked with impurities and pollutants, it's not going to pull clean air into the engine, so the engine won't work as well. Well, really, the same is true in the body. And so part of your metabolism is really based upon an efficient use of oxygen, right? Just like with a combustion engine, that oxygen helps to build the flame, helps to build the heat and how the metabolism works. And so it needs all of the systems working properly. So that's ATP production, how your body utilizes glucose efficiently. When it's not pulling the glucose out of the bloodstream into the cell effectively, the body overproduces insulin, and that causes the body to sequester all that excess glucose as a yellow fat, which is very difficult to burn. And so it's not unusual that I would hear that somebody that aids their body with detoxing, improves their diet from a greens standpoint, uses something like our Pure Body product, that they don't find it easier to maintain, control, and even lose weight because their body's getting cleaned up and it's performing more as it naturally should. So, I mean, I'm excited for her, and I always love to see those kinds of real world tangible results, because I know that's very motivating for someone to continue to improve their health journey.
I think this is a very good news for women, because we always want to lose weight.
Oh, men do too. We have our own vanity, right? So we're right there with you.
Okay, and next, Eddie, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, today I was going to talk about some of the challenges of being sleep deprived. And it's one of those things that I think, particularly the older we get, right? We have some children and we get busy with life and work and all these things. We sort of sacrifice ourselves. So we go to bed late, we get up early, we tend to forget about exercise. I mean, all these sort of things, right? So we're sacrificing for our family, for our children, for our work, for our career, all these types of things. And so we sort of forget it. And when you're sleep deprived, it's one of those hidden challenges. One, it can get in the way of weight control. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So we published not too long ago a blog article about what we called the 7 signs of being sleep deprived. And so I just thought I would review that today, just as like we've talked about with fighting indigestion and antacid and some of these other issues we've been speaking about. It's all a part of that health journey and learning the importance of sleep. You may not be able to change your schedule, but there's some things you can do. So let me give you some things to look for in terms of asking yourself, am I sleep deprived? And one of them is, if you wake up and particularly in the morning and the afternoons, you just find yourself sort of constantly struggling with decision making. It's almost like you've got a bit of a brain fog, right? And you're just not making good decisions. Then that's a pretty strong sign, if that's consistent, that you're sleep deprived. And this can have real world impact. Automobile accidents, industrial accidents. I mean, it can really be as simple as it sounds. It can be a life or death issue. And so where are you at on that? Do you find yourself sort of fighting that brain fog and some of that chronic fatigue, not to be confused with chronic fatigue syndrome, but being sleep deprived can cause that. It can also affect us from a visual standpoint. It can lead to dull, aging skin because the body needs rest to repair. And so I don't know if it's something that is spoke about in Thailand, but in the U.S. you'll hear the term person needs their beauty sleep. Well, that actually has a basis in reality. And so skin is better rejuvenated when we sleep properly. And most suggest that good sleepers have a 30% or greater in university research repair of skin. And so that's a real issue. And then another one would be maybe kind of the third point is, are you sick often compared to other people around you? So coworkers, family members that have a similar lifestyle or live in the same environment, are you constantly fighting coughs or colds or flu? That probably means your immune system's been compromised. There could be a number of reasons, but a lack of sleep is one of those. Poor short-term memory, little different than decision-making. That's a little more of an impulsive situation that can be affected by sleep. But poor short-term memory, I'll hear people sort of say all the time, oh my gosh, I'm getting older, I just can't remember like I used to. But it may also be that you're not treating your body with kindness, right, in terms of the lifestyle, the food you eat, health, other issues, and sleep is a part of that. So poor short-term memory is a sign. And then, as I mentioned, weight control. As simple as it is to use a detox program like the Zeolite to lose some weight that are one of our common people making a comment suggested, it can also be difficult to lose weight because of the impact on your hormones when you're not getting enough sleep. Your system's sort of out of whack. I know that's not a medical term, but I think probably most everybody knows what I'm talking about. And then another one would be, are you more irritable than it would make sense? People, when they lack proper sleep, right, when they're constantly sort of tired and rubbing their eyes, they tend to be a little more irritable. So do you find yourself overreacting at work, overreacting with family? Ask yourself, man, is this partly because I'm tired all the time? And should I start to think about getting a better quality sleep? And then maybe the last thing to mention, and because this is so important, I'll just make this the final sort of key point here, is it can lead to increased inflammation. And maybe that's not always visible, but when your body is chronically dealing with inflammation, your risk of cardiovascular disease, your risk of cancer are heightened because of the damage it's causing inside of your system, and overreaction basically from your autoimmune system. And when we talk about cancer, cardiovascular disease in the developed parts of the world, that's the number 1 and 2 killer. And in fact, in the United States, that accounts for nearly 90% of all deaths really fall into that category of cancer and cardiovascular disease. And so sleep plays a role in this sort of chronic inflammation. So here's some things to think about. One is, just ask yourself if you're dealing with some of those issues. And if you are, is it possible that you're just not getting enough sleep? And the way that you get through the day is too much tea or too much coffee or some of these high caffeinated, high sugar energy drinks. If you need that chronically, particularly, maybe in the morning it jumpstarts you, but if you're also finding yourself looking for those kind of caffeine highs in the afternoon, you got to really look at the quality of sleep you're getting and ask yourself, am I doing a good enough job there? Because you're going to pay a price. Literally it can shorten your life in addition to these other things that I'm mentioning. So pay attention to that and just ask yourself that question. And then think about, what can I do to improve the quality of my sleep? What are the things that keep you from going to bed that you could change? I know that for me, to fall asleep faster, I need to pay attention to screen time. Have I got my face buried in my phone? Have I spent too much time later in the evening on the computer? Because I just sort of get wound up, not only from the electromagnetic fields that are involved with electronics, but just also maybe what I'm reading or what I'm answering or dealing with. And, in the evening hours, if that's when you're getting your rest, you need to sort of prepare yourself and sort of dial it down towards the end of the day so you can fall asleep. And so, what's going on in your mind and thinking about the preparation for sleep. I actually have, I don't know if it's visible, and by no means am I paid by Apple, but I have an Apple Watch that has a sleep app. And it was interesting, my brother gave it to me as a gift, and it was interesting that that sleep app really alerted me to sort of what was happening with my habits. And so there's a few things that I've made an adjustment to improve not just the quality, but the amount of deep sleep that I'm getting. And so I've sort of realized, certain foods, if I eat them too late, they're going to kind of get in the way of my sleep and my rest. And so I've really made some adjustments because I'm just day in and day out sort of looking at it and going, okay, make this improvement here, make that improvement there. And probably for me, the biggest thing, and this is a very common review and testimonial we get, is I use the CBD oil. The CBD oil has made a miraculous impact on the quality of my sleep. If I have a pipette of it about an hour before bed, I just fall asleep faster and stay in a more deep sleep. And then I've also noticed that exercise plays a big role. When I'm on a regular exercise routine, I think that physical exhaustion sort of gives me a better opportunity to fall asleep. My body physically is looking for repair in addition to my mind that you get from good restful nights. So all of this is to say is that sleep is one of those ignored, underappreciated issues when it comes to good quality health. And I hope everybody listening will really pay attention to it and work on your habits and think about what are the things that you do when you get a good night's rest, what are the things you do when you don't, and make some adjustments.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Eddie, thank you very much. It is raining here now.
Okay, well, thank you, and look forward to next week.
Okay, see you next week. Okay, have a good day, Eddie.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.